So, what does the NAR lawsuit and settlement mean for you personally? Hello and welcome. This is Susanna Gentry with Real Estate Real Talk. And today I'm going to be doing the promised follow-up show on what the new NAR ruling means for you. Originally, I had the owner of the Organizer Chicks scheduled to bring a fabulous show about organizing your home. However, unfortunately, this past week she came down with COVID. And so I've rerouted and decided to make good on my promise to you to more fully explain the NAR changes and how it affects you in both buyer and seller scenarios. So if you're wondering what's the big deal, let me just start with the buyer scenario, since that's really probably who takes most of the impact with this. So as of August 17th, if you're buying, before you physically want to get out and look at homes, you'll want to find the very best realtor you can. And you will need to have signed a written agreement with them regarding their payment, regarding the time frames that you're hiring them for and any other criteria before you even view one home. So in my last video, I had mentioned how on an average, a commission on a $400,000 home, for instance, would be $12,000. So, I mean, that's the standard of 3%. So just keep that in mind in the buyer scenarios that I'm going to be talking about. So if you're a buyer ready to enter the market, now you've probably already saved up a minimum of $16,000 for a 3% down payment and closing costs. However, you might not have saved the additional $12,000 to pay your agent to represent you. And this is why it's so critical that you would have the right agent. Because why is it important? Because you need the agent that's going to be able to be the best negotiator for you. You'll need to have your agent be able to negotiate their fee to preferably come from the seller at closing, right? Or B, at least the largest portion of it to come from the seller at closing. And that can be any amount, but some of the standards that I've been seeing already are 2.5%. So maybe you only have to come up with the 0.5%. And then C, maybe the seller is not willing, maybe they don't have it in their net profits. And so as a final recourse, providing the home is worth it to you, and if the seller is not going to agree to A or B, then your agent could possibly negotiate to raise the purchase price of the home by the $12,000, and then the seller would take that $12,000 and agree to give that amount in buyer agent concessions. And I know you're probably thinking, okay, that sounds doable, right? So there's a couple other things. So what about another challenge? As of the 17th, the MLS cannot show any information about compensation online. So what that means for you is that when you are looking at homes on Zillow or whatever your favorite app is, neither you or the agent is going to know if that seller is able or they have the intentions to pay the agent fee. So your agent will need to reach out to each and every listing agent on the homes you want to tour to get the information for you. And some listing agents might be super willing to give that. Others might use it as a form of negotiation and just say, hey, bring your best offer and write it into the contract. They're not going to give away the information of what they're willing. So, preferably if you can capture that information, you're going to rely on your agent to do that. And so that way, when you do go out and looking at these homes, you probably want to know before you get your heart set on something that you really can't afford to pay for if you don't have that extra $15,000. So what is the net takeaway for you? It's really going to all be about negotiation, and your agent's compensation is going to be worked out directly between you and your agent in the agency agreement that you will sign. And in turn, your agent will need to negotiate their fees to be paid by the seller or to be included in the contract price, et cetera, et cetera. So now here is my favorite question. And I've had it asked numbers of times, why do I even need to have representation when I'm buying? I can get all the information off of Zillow. Hey, I'm pretty savvy. I can go to the tax records. I've had a lot of conversations with buyers about this, and, that they're considering skipping hiring that agent and just work with a seller agent. Well, the first thing to remember on that thought is the seller's agent is really committed to get the best deal for the seller, not you. So it's like going to court without an attorney while the other side has a top attorney. If you have $500,000 at stake, that might seem a little risky, right? So, and my questions would be for you, do you know contract law better than the other agent or the seller who could have a realtor friend offering them some instruction or advice? Have you been trained on understanding the legal fine print and the parameters and the potential pitfalls that commonly occur in contracts? We see it all the time. By the way, did you know that also, this is a favorite, Arkansas is one of the very few states that have a caveat emptor law. And simple terms, this just means let the buyer beware. There is no law in Arkansas that requires all sellers to disclose all the known aspects of your, the property's condition that you're looking at. They don't have to tell you. Even though sellers are not supposed to lie or conceal things, do they? I've been in real estate for years, and I can tell you they do. And sometimes. And then let's say that they are honest and disclose everything, or say no seller's disclosure is available. From a litigation standpoint, the caveat emptor really puts the burden on you, the buyer, to prove that the seller deliberately withheld information or covered up this material defect, right? So would you be confident proving this if you're representing yourself? To picture the difference between a caveat emptor approach and a full seller disclosure. Maybe, okay, so a scenario, Parker knows that the roof of his house leaks. He lives in full disclosure state, as in I'm licensed also in Texas, and so I'm working both these scenarios using the state mandated property disclosure statement. So the seller's disclosures in Arkansas, they have a choice of either disclosing the defects or not. So here's a tidbit to remember. The realtors are required to disclose material defects that they're aware of. And, that would be some protection for you. But the thing is the seller has hired the agent. And, if you're trying to buy from a homeowner off of Zillow, the listing agent is not responsible for discovering possible issues to the buyers. They are really required to disclose material defects if they know them. That's it. So back to the times where I've had these conversations with people about representing themselves, they say to me, okay, so I'll just have an inspection then. So did you know that the $550 you pay for an inspection does not guarantee that they're going to uncover a lot or everything? Definitely not the most expensive items that you might get stuck with, which one of those I know a lot about because in heating and AC, I spent 10 years as a territory manager, and the price tag on an HVAC system, depending on the size of your home and the age of your home, the tightness of it, it can be $10,000 to $20,000. I've actually experienced the exact thing when I represented a buyer 2 different times. We went through inspection, walked through the whole contract, and 4, 5, 6 weeks later, we're down to the final walkthrough and found the AC didn't work. My buyers were already moved. They had already sold their home, and they were in temporary housing and hurting. And so now they have another $10,000 that they need to come up with. oh my gosh, I can remember this conversation. It was so painful. And sure, they could have walked away from the contract since it didn't pass the final inspection, but would they want to? They'd already sold their home, fully expecting to move in and start their new jobs. And on the other hand, the seller wasn't very worried because they had a backup offer on the table. So why would they be inclined to pay the extra $10,000? So as a buyer without representation, would you want to negotiate this issue? You know, so I don't leave you hanging. I successfully did negotiate it, and the seller paid, and my buyers moved in on schedule. So that was pretty cool. But I have personally experienced this same issue in real estate contracts with other large ticket items, such as the roof or foundation. These things are not uncovered to any great extent on a general inspection. The only recourse is if you're going to do the inspections without an agent would be to pay for your general inspection, pay for HVAC, you're going to pay for maybe termite inspection, foundation repair if you have any doubts about it. Then if you have issues, yes, you can walk away. However, you've already paid for all of these expenses up front. So long story short, when you hire a buyer's agent, they have a fiduciary duty to hold your interests even above their own. So for me, this would be like if I am being diligent to uncover issues more so than if I am personally buying the home for myself or a rental for myself. I'm looking, I'm really digging. So I hope that gives you some comfort and confidence in hiring a good agent. So now sellers, what's the benefit or impact for you on the NAR ruling? Well, when you're selling, if you don't have a good agent advising you, you might be tempted to not include buyer agent concessions. You know, so this is the benefit that you have control over whether you want to offer it or not, since it's not mandatory, although it never was. But as a standard, it was expected and it was in the MLS. So why would you still want to offer, you know, a full or at least a large part of the buyer agent commission? Because it makes your listing attract more buyers, which means you have more potential for multiple offers and or better offers. You know, like I mentioned earlier, buyers who don't have the funds to pay for their agent's commission, they might be likely to not even view your home. Instead, they're going to favor home options where the seller is paying their agent's fees. So if you're selling, be sure to talk to your agent about how this really affects your overall strategy. And don't hesitate to ask questions about your agreement with them. And remember, these changes are all making the process more transparent and gives you more control. Then another aspect is, how does it impact the market as a whole? So let's take a step back and look at a bigger picture. You know, although there is a lot of extra work now that goes into a transaction, the positive side is that now with compensation negotiated directly, there's potential for more personalized deals. This is good. It also means agents and clients need to have a lot of open and honest conversation. These new rules might seem like, you know, it's a lot and a little overwhelming. But, you know, if you look at it and you have the right information and a good agent by your side, you can be ready to jump in with confidence, full steam ahead. So I hope you found this information really helpful. I hope it's valuable to you. And if you have questions, if you want to learn anything more specifically, reach out to me directly. I would love to help. I'm here. Don't forget to like the video, hit subscribe button, and ring the bell so you don't miss any updates. And thanks for watching, you guys. I will see you next time.